Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Dental Buyer Advocates webinar. Today is Friday, November 7th. Congratulations, you made it to the end of another week. It's Friday. Hopefully, you've had a good day, and hopefully, it's about to get a little bit better because today we are talking about the 5 things every dentist needs to buy a dental practice. Okay, and you're going to walk away from this with some concrete, actionable tips and advice, things that you can use as you prepare yourself to purchase a dental practice. So who is this for exactly? Well, it's for any dentist who is not yet a practice owner. And frankly, maybe some who are. If you're advising, if you're a mentor to somebody, or perhaps you're thinking about selling your practice and you want to forward this on to somebody. Okay, but who is this for in reality? Mostly this is going to be for you associates out there, the employee dentists, even you D3 and D4s who can see the light at the end of the tunnel and you know you want to own a practice one day. It is not too early to start prepping yourself and considering what you're going to need in order to purchase that practice one day. All right, so let's start off by introducing myself here. In fact, why don't I, now that we're up to this point, I'll blow that up a little bit. My name is Craig. I am the Director of Business Development at Dental Buyer Advocates. I have a background in business banking. I've actually owned my own business before as well, although right now I do the bulk of my work for Dental Buyer Advocates. I've been here for quite a while. So I've worked with a lot of dentists. I've looked at a lot of dental practices and have a lot of relationships across the industry that I can use to dispense a little bit of wisdom your way. So hopefully that will be the case today. As I say, we're talking about the 5 things, and it is a very a good standard 5 things on the list that you're going to need to buy a dental practice. We're going to address all of these things. This webinar is going to take, anywhere from usually 20 to 30 minutes, and I'll run through all 5 of those things. If you end up joining live, then there will be a Q&A session at the end of this where you're welcome to ask any questions you have. If you have questions throughout the webinar, you're welcome to throw those in there. Or if you come in later, if you're watching the recording on Facebook or on YouTube after the fact, you're welcome to drop a comment in there. And if I can answer it there in the comments, I will. And I would love to have that for the next webinar that we do, because we are going to be holding this one regularly going forward. Okay, so let's get into the 5 things. All right, this is the number one thing, right? You go back, you look at this list, and that's the one that's probably going to jump out to a lot of people. And they say cash is king, right? So we're going to lead off with cash, and we're going to talk about this specifically. Now, when we look at the 5 things you need to buy, there's another way that you can look at this, okay? So this list is the 5 things you need in order to purchase a practice. But really, if you look at it from, a little bit of a different angle, what you're really asking is, what do I need in order to get a loan? In order to get a loan to buy a dental practice, what is going to be required of me, okay? And this would be a really great example of that. What is the bank going to ask for? Well, the first thing is cash. All right, so when you purchase a dental practice, you do need to have cash on hand. And this is a tricky one, okay? And I'll tell you why in just a moment. But first, let's get the actual number. What you'll be expected to have on hand is the lesser of 10% of the purchase price or $50,000 in liquid cash. Okay, that means easily accessible accounts where you won't pay any penalty for accessing those funds. So yeah, we're talking checking, savings, maybe a money market account, something like that. But we're not talking about investments. The liquidity in your home does not count here, right? We're talking about cash. So the lesser of 10% of the purchase price or $50,000 in cash. So what is your goal? Your goal is to get to that $50,000 number. So let's say you're a D4 or you're a brand new associate. This is a really good, concrete, actionable goal for you to take, something for you to set your sights on right now, is to find a way to save that $50,000 in liquid cash. All right, you're going to have some time to do that. And we're going to get to the time requirements here in a bit. Now, you'll notice I said the lesser of 10% of the purchase price or $50K. All right, so if you are purchasing a very small practice, maybe it's an asset only sale or something like that. Well, okay, that probably wouldn't count in this case. But point being, if it's a very small practice and the purchase price is $400,000, then the bank will ask you to have $40,000 on hand. What if it's a $2 million practice? Well, in that case, 10% of that would be 200 grand. You're not going to be expected to have that on hand. You will be expected to have at least that 50K. Now, this is a tricky one because when we talk about this requirement specifically, every bank and every deal is going to have a slightly different requirement for what you need to have on hand. This is a guideline, it's a guidepost, it's a starting point. And so that is what we're looking at is $50,000 as that starting point. The deal that you're looking at, yeah, it could creep up. You might be looking at a bank asking you to have $60,000 or $70,000 on hand. That is possible, okay? But your goal is to save $50,000 in liquid cash. If you have your eye on practice ownership, this is one of your number one goals, okay? So pretty simple, pretty straightforward on this one. Now, as I go through this, you'll notice that with this one especially, but some of the others as well, there are guidelines that we're talking about here, and every bank has slightly different requirements. It is a great idea for you to get in touch with lenders very early in the process of preparing yourself and searching for a practice to own. You want to have those discussions with the lenders early because they'll be able to tell you what their bank's current specific guidelines are that might be slightly different than the benchmarks that we're laying out in this video. There's no way I can tell you exactly what the requirements from Bank X are going to be that month, right? Or for that potential deal, if you have something in mind. So it is not too early to reach out to lenders and ask about specific questions like this. If you have any questions about how to find the right lenders, who to speak to, when, how, all of that, then check out the bottom of this page here. You've got my email address right there. You can also schedule a call. We can talk about your preparation phase. But if you have any questions about this or any of the other steps that we're going to be talking about, the goals that we're going to be talking about, then just shoot me an email. I'm happy to introduce you to some great lenders if that's the point in the process that you're at. Okay. Now, number 2 is production history. This is there's another one that's going to be kind of similar to this, but it is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be talking about the length of time that you need to have under your belt as a dentist before you purchase a practice. But in this case, we're talking about production history. So this is, let's see, what this is saying is that you need to show the bank that you deserve a loan through having the greatest asset that you've come out of school with, which is your clinical skills. Have you put them to use? What have you done clinically? How much of it have you done clinically? So when it comes to production history, you are going to need to show that you can do some dentistry, all right? So your goal here is, frankly, to work as hard as you can and keep track of it. So whether you're an associate or you're an employee dentist working, for a DSO or what have you, get your production reports on a monthly basis. Sit down, pull your production reports, save a PDF, print out a hard copy, whatever it takes. Keep your production history, keep track of it, keep close track of it. And what you're looking for here is, the reason I say work as hard as you can is because when you are a young dentist, here, let me pull this up a little bit. When you're a young dentist and you're looking for that first associate job, there are a lot of things that you should consider, things that you can negotiate, things that you can think about as you land that first associate gig or employment at corporate dentistry or what have you. But what you should be looking for, one of the things you should be looking for, is a place where you can work hard, right? So if there's a place that says, hey, I need an associate 1 day a week, you say, great, maybe, as long as you have another associateship or employment opportunity lined up that's going to allow you to work hard. The reason for this is that when you go to purchase a practice, let's use a nice round number. Let's say you're looking at purchasing a practice that does $1 million in collections every year. Or you know what? Let's actually use the word production here. Obviously, there's a little nuance there, but they're going to be similar numbers, or at least they should be. So let's say this office does $1 million in production every year, and that selling doctor is doing 800,000 of that $1 million in production. Okay. So now you're looking at that practice where you are going to be stepping into the shoes of a doctor that does $800,000 in production. If that's the case, the bank wants to know that you're going to be able to handle this practice that you're taking on. So with that in mind, the production history goal that we have here is vitally important to show the bank that you can handle what the selling doctor has been doing. So you're looking to be able to do at least 80% of what that doctor has done in the last few years of production. So if they've done $800,000 in almost pure bread and butter, right? Let's say they're really not doing much by way of specialty procedures, right? They're referring a lot of stuff out, but they're still managing to do a ton of bread and butter stuff, and they're doing $800,000 in production. You need to be able to show the bank that you can do at least 80% of what that doctor has been doing. It doesn't have to be perfect overlap, right? You're a young doctor. They've been working for decades. Their hand speed is incredible. They've been around the block. The bank is not going to expect you to keep up with 100% of what the selling doctor has done, but they are going to expect you to be able to keep up to a large extent. So the magic number there is 80%. Can you produce, if that doctor is doing 800,000 in production, have you got, oh gosh, what would that be? $620,000 in production under your belt? That's fast math. Don't hold me to that, okay? I don't have my papers in front of me. But are you able to do 80% of it? That means that even if the production from that office takes a little bit of a hit as you get up to speed with rigors of ownership and continuing to build your clinical skills and your hand speed, you are going to be able to cover the production that you need to in order to pay back your loan, to pay your student loans, to live the lifestyle you want to, right? So that is extremely important. When we talk, we'll get to number 3. When you talk about production history, we're talking about being able to cover 80% of what a potential selling doctor has been able to do. Okay. All right. Number 3, credit score over 680. This one is pretty straightforward. Okay. The nice thing about this number is that there's no sliding scale here. I will say that some banks will say it's a little bit of a fuzzy number. Maybe it's not exactly 680. Maybe they require 690, or maybe they're okay with 670. But really what you should count on is 680 as the credit score you need to have in order to purchase a dental practice. Full stop. As I say, it's not a sliding scale. If you have a credit score of 800, you're not going to get better rates than you would if you had a score of 681. If you have a score of 679, you're simply not going to pass go. You're not going to collect $200. You're not going to get a loan for a practice. That credit score is a pretty bright red line for the most part. Again, a conversation with a specific banker about a specific situation and a specific borrower may yield some exceptions here and there, but for the most part, I don't think you're going to see tons of exceptions to this one. So what's your goal here? Again, very simple, right? That's the nice thing about this one. Pay your bills, build your credit, right? And I'm not here in this webinar to tell you exactly how to build your credit. There are a lot of gurus, a lot of tips and tricks out there, and I'll leave that to you to consult with your financial advisor, your banker, whoever, to talk about building your credit score if that is something that you need to do. If you already have it up over 680, great, maintain it, pay your bills, build that credit. All right. Similarly, number 4, clean credit history. This is a nice bright red line where there's not a ton of wiggle room here. What are we talking about when we talk about clean credit history? Didn't I just say you need a credit score over 680? If you have that, don't you have a clean credit history? Probably, but not necessarily. All right, it can happen that you have an okay credit score, but not necessarily clean credit history. So what are we talking about here? Your goal, no bankruptcies, no short sales. Now, the nice thing about working at dental buyer advocates and working with mostly younger dentists, right? Recent grads, or maybe people who've been out of school for 5, 6, 8 years, something like that. You're probably not far enough into your career to have had tons of opportunity to have major credit blemishes like this, but it is possible, right? Things have happened before. We've seen it all, right? And so it does happen. But the nice thing is, this is one that I get to kind of go pretty quickly and say, when it comes to a clean credit history, with the stage of your career that you're probably at watching this video, you're probably okay. All right, but still, your goal, no bankruptcies, no short sales. And lastly, okay, we've got number 5, 1 year of experience. And this is one that trips up a lot of people where, again, because of the clientele that we tend to work with at Dental Buyer Advocates, you guys are real go-getters. If you're a D4, you already, or even a D3, and you already have your sights set on ownership, then this is one that can cause a little bit of frustration for a lot of dentists. But this 1 year of experience is pretty vital for a couple of reasons. The first is actually, if we go back to production history, right? This is tied in a little bit with that. If you go to apply for a loan, you're fresh out of school, you do not have the clinical experience or the hand speed yet to be able to keep up with what a modern dental office would need you to do. Okay. And okay, yes, there are going to be exceptions to that. I'm speaking in gross generalities. Just hang with me here. So the vast majority of you are going to fit into that bucket where upon graduation, you're not ready to own a dental practice. And so you need that 1 year of experience for a couple of reasons. The first one we already mentioned, which is keeping up with the selling doctor, making sure that you have those clinical skills and the hand speed necessary to run that office, clinically speaking. The other thing is, frankly, just a knowledge of your own desires. What is it that you want out of a dental practice? That 1 year of experience, the banks will require that. The more conservative ones will draw a bright line on this and say, nope, you have to have a year of experience. Some others that are less conservative may say, hey, if you've got 9 months, 10 months experience, we can maybe talk to you about making an exception here, and maybe it would show up on the rate that you get, something along those lines. But for the most part, it's a pretty bright line, okay? So your goal here is to, again, work hard, just like we talked about in number 2. You're going to work as hard as you can and keep track of your production. But the other thing you're keeping track of is, what do you want from your future practice? This is a huge question. It's vitally important. You need to know the answer to this question, and you don't yet know right out of dental school. And so the reason the banks will ask for you to have a year of experience, or I should say a reason that the banks will ask you to have a year of experience, is because it has happened in the past, when these rules weren't as solid as they are now. It has happened in the past where a doctor will come out of school, they'll get a big loan, they'll start practicing, and then, they burn out, or they decide, oh, this type of dentistry isn't for me, or this area isn't for me. I want to move somewhere else. And now they're in a position where, oh gosh, now I've got to offload this practice. I need to pay back the loan. I need to move somewhere else. And so to avoid that, this is where this requirement comes from. All right. You need to have some experience and know a little bit about yourself clinically before you jump into ownership. Because once you buy that practice, you're probably not going anywhere, at least not for a while, right? Yeah, you can maybe sell it a little ways down the road, but at least for several years, you are there in that practice. And so you better be sure you're stepping into a practice where you're doing the dentistry you want to do, working with the people you want to work with, living in an area that you can see yourself putting down some roots in, okay? So there you go. Those are the 5. In fact, let's go back. Let's go back to number 1, and we'll just do this really quick. You got to have cash. The lesser of 10% of the purchase price, which you don't know yet, or $50,000 in cash. So your goal, $50,000 in cash. Number 2, production history. Your goal here is work as hard as you can and keep track of everything. Print out your production reports at least on a monthly basis and keep those somewhere safe that you can access later, because you are going to need those production reports when you apply for a loan. Number 3, a credit score over 680. And number 4, a clean credit history. Okay, no bankruptcies, no short sales. And lastly, you need 1 year of experience for all the reasons that I just mentioned. All right, with that in mind, there is some extra credit here. All right. And I kind of hesitated to put this slide on, if I'm being perfectly honest, because we've gone through the 5 things. And frankly, that should keep you pretty busy for the first year out of school, saving money, maintaining that production history, learning more about your clinical style and what you want to do. But there is extra credit here, okay? And that extra credit is learn anything you can about management. All right, now, there are a few different ways you could go with that, right? Learning about management, I'm talking about learning how to run a dental practice, learning a little bit about business, because once you step into that practice as the owner, you are now primarily a business owner. You're a business owner first and a dentist second. That being said, your clinical skills are still your most valuable commodity, right? That is what you have. And it's what you should have. But you do need to know how to run that practice. So there are all sorts of things that you can dig into. Now, I'm going to highlight a few of these actually, because that's a long list. But these ones right here, personnel, leadership, goal setting, these kind of softer skills. How do you deal with employees, right? How do you hire? How do you fire? How do you talk to somebody about, hey, you show up 5 minutes late every day and we need to change that? How do you give that feedback? These softer skills are a little bit tougher to hire out. And so these are the ones that I would encourage you to really dig into. The others are also important. But when it comes to, say, something like finances, right, you can hire that out. You can hire a CPA, and you should hire a CPA to handle your finances, to do your, hire somebody to do your payroll, hire somebody to do your taxes and accounting, your bookkeeping. Marketing, ditto. You do not need to become a marketing guru because you can hire somebody for that. Technology, data management, all that stuff. But the softer skills, those are ones that would be really valuable for you to go and learn a little bit. And so let me skip that slide. I'll come back to that one in just a second. So if you want to learn a little bit about running a business, now you may be familiar already. In fact, let me blow this up a bit. You may be familiar already with Brian's book, How to Buy a Dental Practice. What you may not know is that there is a second volume to it. And that second volume is all about what do you do to transition into ownership? What are the steps you need to take? What are the mindset shifts you need to have to go from, hey, I was an employee or an associate, now I'm the boss. What do I need to know? Okay, so that volume 2 can help a lot with that. There are also lots of other books out there. If you want to learn about some basic finances, go for something like Simple Numbers. And the favorite one around here at Dental Buyer Advocates is The Effective Manager by Mark Horstman, where that's going to break down a lot of that management stuff around how you deal with people in the office, right? The stuff I talked about: hiring, firing, feedback, getting the best out of your employees. So those are some great recommendations, and there are dozens, hundreds of other really good recommendations out there. The point is, you want to, again, learn anything about management. And if you do, and if you internalize those lessons, you're going to have a real leg up on the other dentists in town. You're going to be the best one. You'll be the one that employees want to work for, that want to stick around for. It's going to make a huge difference in your career. Okay. Now, we're going to wrap things up, and I'll do that by showing you this slide right here with a nice QR code on the right, because this is the number one question. Okay, I can prep all I want, but when it's time to find a practice to buy, what the heck do I do? I'm not going to go through this whole slide, okay? There is a presentation, a webinar that I gave several weeks ago. You can go back in our YouTube archives to check that out. So that's where I talked about all this. But that QR code over there on the right, this is the ultimate guide to finding a practice, the PDF that we produce that distills a lot of the learned wisdom that we have from combined decades of experience helping dentists to find and purchase practices. And so a lot of that wisdom is there. Just put the QR code in your phone. It'll ask you for your email address, and then we'll send you a copy of that PDF for you to check out. And it's got a lot of really great actionable advice. Really hope you check it out. Okay. And then today, I think we are good. I think we're going to skip the Q&A, guys. So today we are finished, but I will be back next week. Okay. So if you are watching this, again, if you're watching this on a replay, right, on YouTube or Facebook, you're seeing something from the archives, then you can drop a question in the comments and I will see that and come back to it. Or come back next week. I will be here at 3 p.m. Eastern time to do this presentation one more time. And I will be glad to answer your questions then if you have any. But for now, happy Friday, everybody. Congratulations. You made it to the end of the week. I hope you have a great weekend. And once again, let me blow this up just once more. Right there at the bottom, you've got my contact information. I would love to hear from you if you have any questions about what we talked about today or anything else about the practice purchase process. I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me an email. Goes straight to my phone. You can send it right now and I will see it right away. You can also schedule a call. If you use that link on the right, I will, you can put something on my calendar. I'll give you a call and we do a similar thing. I'll see where you're at in your journey and how I can best help you out and talk about concrete next steps and things that you can do today and tomorrow to be ready to buy a practice. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next week.